3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Thanks. Yeah. So, are y'all hungry? We did not plan that. I know you're hungry, but are you hungry? All right, I'm shaking, so sorry. You know, I wasn't nervous until I got up here. Thanks. Thank you. How many of you love a beautiful Hobby Lobby sign? Okay, the kind that are written in cursive that only half of you and Pastor Allie can read? Yeah. And they say things like, choose joy. Love is the answer. Well, I can think of like walking through Hobby Lobby. Most of the fruit, I'm going to say fruits. Fruit is the plural of fruit, but I'm going to say fruits. So get over it if you're an English person. I have seen most of the fruits on a sign at Hobby Lobby. There's one that I haven't really seen, because if it was a sign at Hobby Lobby, it would be in big, block, ugly letters, and it would say, have some self-control. Yeah, I chose self-control as my fruit that I'm going to talk about. Does that surprise anybody? No. I've spent weeks thinking about self-control. Weeks. I've talked to Doug. We've had long conversations. He was baking a pie one day, and we talked about self-control. You know, it is not the fruit that rolls off your tongue. It doesn't fit into a song lyric. In fact, it seems like it's like love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness. And then it's like self-control. We think of self-control usually as something that's punitive or restrictive. What do we think about when we think about self-control? Most of the time we're thinking diet, exercise, finances, and it usually involves that we are not getting something that we should have or that we want to have. I'm not having that fruit tart. I'm not going to the Vibrant Vault and spending money. You know, I can't do that. I don't have the money. But if we look at self-control only in that way, we're missing the beauty of self-control. So I'm going to show you a picture of how I think of self-control. Now, I'm not on the media team for a reason, but I have a multimedia presentation for you today that I spent way too much time on yesterday. All right. I think of self-control. I doodle, and when I journal, which is not consistently, but when I journal, I usually doodle. I think of abiding as the umbrella that's over everything. We have to abide in God in order to have anything, and if we're out from under that, we're missing the protection of that and the raining down of the right things on us. I think of all the fruits as like, I have them in a little box here because they're like a gift. And I think of self-control as the ribbon that holds it all together. We have nothing without self-control. The ribbon of self-control is what holds everything together. It's what gives all the fruits their sweetness It's what helps them ripen in the right season. It's what keeps them from getting rotten. If you take any of these things out of the picture, if you take the fruits of the Spirit out of the picture, or if we seek fruit only, if that's what we want joy, we want peace. That's what, when people go to Hobby Lobby and they buy a sign that says, choose joy, they're seeking joy. If they say love is love, they're seeking love. If that is what happens, if we take that fruit outside of abiding in God or having self-control, here's what might be produced instead of sweetness. Love can become manipulation. I'm seeking love. I want love. I want a husband. I want a boyfriend. I want children. I want love. I'll have a child so somebody will love me. I can't tell you how many times I have heard that from young girls who have had babies. They'll always love me. Not the reason to have a baby. Not the reason to seek that in seeking love. Joy can become sarcasm or mania. It can become humor at somebody else's expense. Peace can become, instead of abiding in God, like Juanita was talking about, and filling your mind, it can become avoidance of conflict. Patience can become laziness. Gentleness can become passivity. Faithfulness can become a devotion to something that is not godly. You're devoted, but it's to the totally wrong thing. Any one of the fruits outside of abiding in God and having self-control can become bitter, never satisfying, a big monster that can never be fed. We have monsters inside ourselves that want to be fed, and you know it's a monster when you feed it, and then it always wants more, and it gets bigger and bigger, and then it grows out of control. So what became a quest for love becomes a big monster of rejection. But what if we only have self-control? Jenny has self-control. She's the most consistent person I know. Here's what happens. It can produce eating disorders, hoarding of anything. Don't just think stuff. Don't think a house full of stuff. Think emotions, words, criticism, joylessness. I know a lot of military people who can make a bed that you can bounce a quarter off of, and they can march in cadence, but they have no joy. They have self-control, but they have nothing to accompany that. It can result in manipulation, fear. Really, if all you're doing is having self-control and holding it all together, you're usually fearing what will happen if you let go. Not talking to anybody here. All right. I see faces over here, and I'm like, I'm not talking to you, really. It usually results in isolation. And trying to feed the never satisfied monster of perfectionism. I know you're out there. I know you're out there. Self-control becomes selfish control. It says, I can fix everyone and myself. I know best because I'm the author of my story. It says, I know better than God. So, I'm going to tell you quickly about my friend Emily, my other friend Emily. She's my sparkly friend Emily that I talked about last year. And you know, in a year, God has done some amazing things. She got a visit from her administration at her school that she's worked at since 2015. And long story short, it was, hey, you've done a great job, but things aren't good, and we're going to have to reevaluate. And maybe by December, you're going to have to look for another job, or we're going to reassign you. She's the most consistent person I know. She does her job. She does it well. She had every opportunity to not abide in God. She had every opportunity to panic. Between the time that she heard that news, where she was blindsided, and the evening where they said, oh, oops, It was an Excel spreadsheet error. And I said, they should give you a raise, for all that. Now, that's not what she said. Here's what she did. I got a text from her, and she said, the coolest part about this is a year ago, I wouldn't have been able to handle this. I would have cried, found 5 new jobs, and put my house on the sale by lunchtime. Ha ha. And that's really kidding, not kidding. But today, I said, okay, I'll help recruit. I wrote a newspaper ad for them. I sent the appropriate data and then went and prayed. I thank the Lord for being a good provider all this time and for the amazing life he's given us here and my church family. And by the end of it, I said, this house of mine, this is yours. This job is yours. And if you have something else planned, you take it all and give me the grace to handle it. Now, in and of herself, is that Emily's first tendency? I can tell you I've spent lots of time with Emily, and I know her struggles. And I know that this was a result of abiding in God for a long time. Now, does it matter that she didn't do it in some right order? Like, she didn't pray first. She wrote an ad first, or wait, she did this. She maybe had a little moment of panic, but does it matter? No. We get all formulaic. We want to have the formula, right? But the truth is, the relationship between abiding, self-control, and the fruit of the Spirit is one that we cannot pin down. Because if we could, we'd try to control it. And it's a beautiful dance. It's always changing. Your self-control might not look like my self-control. Maybe I can eat a Twinkie, but you can't. I don't know. Maybe I can have a glass of wine, but you can't. It's not about that. It's not about somebody telling you what to do or not do. If you've sat with me for any length of time, I'll just tell you something and then say, it's up to you. You have a choice, always. But self-control is the thing that says, I don't have to follow my flesh. I don't have to listen to this voice in my head, the wild thoughts. I can take a vibrant vault full of junk that's in a heap, and I can organize it because I have self-control. You can take all those worried, anxious thoughts, abide in God, and he will organize it. He'll figure it out for you. So Proverbs 25:28. I love this. And Emma, I'm going to ask you to come up. I was going to give her what I've learned on the reservation. Okay. It says that a person without self-control is like a breached city, one with no walls. So I would say there are no boundaries. Fruit is picked before its time, and it tastes bitter. Or the fruit has become rotten, and as Pastor Emily said, it starts to eat itself. This is really important, and I want you to hear me. There are those of you who have had your walls breached. Before you even knew what self-control was. You didn't know you could say no. You didn't have a say in your life. Maybe you breached your walls. Maybe you weren't abiding with God. Maybe you were. I know plenty of women who have had abortions because they thought it was easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. But I'm telling you, the fruit of that is bitter. But God meets you in the secret place, in your secrets place. He meets you there, and he says, you can come to me, all you who are heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. I'll give you forgiveness. I'll give you peace. I'll give you faithfulness. I'll give you joy. I am so passionate about this because it's not just about you doing the right thing at the right time all the time. It's about you dancing, abiding, being steeped in God so that he can tell you. And here's a beautiful scripture. And as Pastor Emily comes over here, we're going to pray with you. It says, James 1:2-5 says, my brothers and sisters, think of the various tests you encounter as occasions for joy. After all, you know that the testing of your faith produces endurance. Let this endurance complete its work so that you may be fully mature. So what do you do if your walls have been breached, or you've breached your walls, or you've caused pain in someone else's life? Because bitter fruit doesn't just taste bitter to you, it tastes bitter to everybody that you encounter. But God has the sweetness. He has the ability to bring healing to you, to bring wisdom to you, because he says this, but anyone who needs wisdom should ask God, whose very nature is to give it to everyone without a second thought, without keeping score. We keep score, he doesn't. Wisdom will certainly be given to all those who ask. He has health, he has fruit, he has peace.
Yes.
Pastor Emily and I, we love sitting together and talking. We love this. And that's what this feels like, just this, we're just sitting with you. Don't let this morning go by without learning. Abiding in God is where it's at. It's not about some formula. He wants to bring fruit to you. He wants to grow your roots deep so that when the winds come, you're not blown over. You're not a tumbleweed. You are rooted.
You're amazing. Sorry, I guess. Oh, it is. We're going to take a moment right now, and we've made space in order for you to have some time of worship and reflection, because I know each and every one of us in the room, something's been stirring in you this morning, and we want to be available to God. We want to be available to the Holy Spirit and what he wants to speak to each and every one of us, what he may need to heal in your heart this morning. You may have come in here and not realized that you needed it.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But if there is something stirring in you in that way, I want to encourage you, lean into that. Don't try and control it. Because we don't want to be bitter. And we don't want to be rotten. And so these are those moments that we have to just release. And, Jenny said something earlier. It was just so good. It was like we're looking for fruit, or we were obedient, but we were trying and get an outcome. But what did she say? It was an outcome that's unsubmitted. Ooh, girl.
Yeah.
That word right there, I'm telling you, unsubmitted. You don't ever want to be in a place that you have got this self-control and you have got the rein so tight that you hit one bump and you thought because of that control, but it's so tight you shatter. The whole vehicle of motion is gone. We want to be submitted saints. That's our job. And I'll tell you, as women, we come in here with the self-control. I have to have it all together. Because people are relying on me. My husband is relying on me. My family is relying on me to have it all together. And I'm just going to tell you, right now, you don't.
Right.
You don't. Without that really cute, great multimedia picture. This umbrella, it's actually beautiful that we had a rainy day. Because this can be your reminder that what it says in Psalm 91:1, He will keep you when you find the secret place. It says that first. When you meet God in the secret place, He will hold you under the shadow of His wing. And that is where we want to abide. That's where David met God. That's where he wrote everything that we read. He was hidden. He was hidden in a cave in En-Gedi, but he was covered. And that was his secret place. What is your secret place? We're going to go there today. And sure, there may be people on either side of you. It don't matter. Because if you want to turn around and kneel at your chair, I'm going to tell you, everything else will fade. And what we're going to do is, what we would maybe call in a Christian realm, a spiritual word, which we call it soaking. But I'm going to take it somewhere else because you guys will know what I'm talking about. We're going to call it steeping today. Because He's the hot water. And you're the tea bag. And if you will sit here long enough and not rush it, not put your self-control. Okay, God, I gave you 3 minutes. I gotta pee. I gotta eat. No. Quit trying to dip that bag and make it happen faster. If you will allow yourself to steep long enough, a transformation will occur. And so, worship team, will you come and join me? We have a special song for you today, but in your registration bags, or maybe if you already have it, you have a notebook or a note card with you. And I'm just going to ask you to be a little mature in your faith and just say, Holy Spirit, what is it? Because some of you already know. And some of you don't. And I'm going to tell you, there's nothing wrong if you don't maybe know right this minute, but you know that you want something and that He's wanting to say something to you. Sometimes you have to start writing it out. And then it's almost like a trigger is released. And I mean that, that's kind of been hijacked, in the mental health world. But I mean that in a sense of, how Pastor Landon talked about a floodgate opening. Sometimes you have to start just writing out your thoughts, what's plaguing you, what you've been trying to hold together, and just confess, and it releases. And so we want to have time for you to do that today. And I'll come up and we will have an ordered transition. I'm really going to ask, don't leave this space until we release you. Okay, because this is a holy moment and we need to be reverent. And I appreciate all the women coming up and sharing. Pastor Allie talked us through, checking our roots, checking our soil. And these women talked about by abiding, this is the fruit I've seen in my life. And you know what? Maybe your prompt today is, what fruit am I missing? Maybe when they were talking about peace, you're like, I don't even know what that would look like in my life. That's okay. This is what that time is for, is to allow Him to come and for you to abide together, for you to steep, because hot water and tea are made for each other.